Have you ever wondered where we get all the energy in our ecosystem from?
The short answer is that everything can be tracked back to the sun. The sun transfers its energy to the earth through light radiation. This light is absorbed into the plant through chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment located in the thylakoids. It takes the blue, violet, and red lights from the sun and absorbs them to be used later for the process of photosynthesis. However, the chlorophyll doesn't absorb the green pigments, so it simply reflects the green. That's why most plants are green. The light from the sun is one of the key ingredients used to make glucose in the plant. Different organisms get nutrients and glucose in different ways. Plants are autotrophs, which means that they can make glucose from the energy they obtain from the sun, water or H2O, and the carbon dioxide or CO2 in the air that we produce. We and other animals are heterotrophs, as we are unable to make our own glucose.
Plants are made up of many cells, called plant cells, which have a special organelle called the chloroplast, which we heterotrophs don't have. The chloroplast uses the sun's energy, CO2 and H2O, to form glucose, or C6H12O6, and oxygen, or O6. There are two reactions that happen to do this, the light-dependent reaction and the light-independent reaction. Both reactions use organic materials from the chloroplast and inorganic materials from outside of the plant.
The light-dependent reaction takes place in the thylakoids. The light energy from the sun is used to split the hydrogen atoms in the H2O and expel the oxygen. This process creates energy called adenosine triphosphate, ATP, and nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide triphosphate, NADPH. The energy is used in the stroma to convert the CO2 and the hydrogen to glucose. What happens in the stroma is called the light-independent reaction. After this, something happens called cellular respiration. Heterotrophs and autotrophs both use glucose to make ATP energy that powers their functions. This is cellular respiration, essentially the reverse of photosynthesis. So, autotrophs use ATP to make glucose and can also use glucose to make ATP energy. The light energy is transformed into chemical energy through this process and is stored in the bonds in the glucose. The light energy is conserved through the bonds and is released when the glucose is used. The glucose is used to power the plant and can eventually be consumed by a human or other animal, who are called consumers. A consumer is an organism that cannot produce its own food, so it must rely on consuming other organisms. So, a plant is a producer. This means that the plant is able to make its own food. Finally, there are decomposers. These are organisms who eat other dead organisms. Some examples of decomposers are dung beetles and worms. All three of these are different organisms that are crucial to the pyramid of the ecosystem. The pyramid of the ecosystem, or the energy pyramid, can show how energy is transferred and how many of each organism there are. At the top are the consumers, and at the bottom are the producers. A healthy ecosystem should have less consumers at the top and more producers at the bottom. As you go down the pyramid of the ecosystem, the energy amount becomes 10% of the energy level before it, because organisms need to use the glucose and the energy they've created or consumed to sustain themselves. Plants are at the bottom of the pyramid and are very inefficient, as they only absorb 3 to 6% of the sun's light, because that's all that they need. Each energy level is called a trophic level. Here is an energy pyramid for an ecosystem. At the bottoms are the plants like grass and trees that are producers. Above are the consumers that eat the plants, like squirrels and bunnies. Above them are the consumers that eat them, like snakes. And above them are the consumers or predators that eat them, like falcons and wolves. To recap, today we learned about photosynthesis and how plants make food and how other organisms consume them to get their own food, and how all this interacts in the ecosystem, but most of all, how energy flows. Our photosynthesis program is directed by Sadie Childs and written by Sadie Childs and Hunter Stevenson. This program was produced by Holden Dry and narrated by Hunter Stevenson. The animation was done by the wonderful Sadie Childs, and the research was done by the amazing Holden Dry. The music of this video is Happy Dreams by David Veslian. We hope you have enjoyed this program and have learned something today. Thank you.